Let us now delve into the ethical philosophies. Ethical philosophies are one of the major portion of the subject of ethics which we are going to study. Based on these ethical philosophies, too many concepts would be cleared so as to apply them when you are writing an answer, and also you would understand how ethics is applied in the real world. Some of the propagators were great philosophers who has given political philosophies, and these ethical philosophies have been drawn from their social and political philosophies. Greek philosophers, deontology, teleology, which is also the one of the offshoot is utilitarianism, contractarian theory, justice theory of John Rawls, and capability theory. These are few theories which we will see in this lecture. Let us delve into the Greek philosophers and Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle, what they have said about ethics. Each of these theory have some basic element which is the basis on which the whole theory is based. That basis becomes the standard, the ethical standard for this theory. For Greek philosophers, that element is character. Similarly, for deontology, it is selflessness. For utilitarianism or teleology, this is selfishness. Contractarian theory, it is the contract which becomes the basis for ethics. With the justice theory of John Rawls, justice and fairness becomes the basis of ethical theory. Capability theory is given as a critique to John Rawls' theory. This theory has been propagated by Amartya Sen. We will see this theory afterwards, but let's just delve into the Greek philosopher Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle. For all of these, the character of a human being is the most important element to become ethical. It's a theory which says that ethics originate from within. We have seen in the previous lecture that a mind of a human being is influenced by thought, and emotions and feelings have a great role to play in shaping our thinking, which shapes our mind. This thought converts into action, action converts into tendencies and habits, which then converts into character. So the whole idea of ethics when it comes to the Greek philosopher is an individual. It is not enforced from outside, but it is from within that you become ethical. If we see one of the other theories such as contract theory, it is the contract, the external force which is influencing you to become more ethical and moral. But when it comes to Greek philosophers, it is the character which you possess which makes the person ethical or moral. So they must have defined what character is. The definition was given by Socrates. He says virtue. If you are a virtuous man, man includes women also. If you are a virtuous man, then you have a good character. And if you have a good character, you will act ethically, you will think ethically. And when there is cumulation of such people in the society, virtuous characters people in the society becomes ethical because everybody accepts the set of standards which are set. Everybody adheres to those set of standards which makes the society more and more ethical and moral. So what is this virtue? He has given 3 to 4 points to judge whether a person is virtuous or not. One is prudence. One is prudence, another is temperance, another is justice, another is wisdom. These are few of those qualities which makes you virtuous. What is prudence? Prudence means an ability of rationality and objectivity, to see something in a rational way and objective way. To see something in a rational way and an objective way will amount to prudence. If you have this quality of prudence, this is one of the cornerstone of being virtuous. What can be opposite of this? That you are irrational and not at all objective. That means your judgments are clouded by emotions, biasness. Your judgments can be clouded by favoritism. But if there is no favoritism in you, if there is no biasness in you, if there is emotional intelligence in you, then you will be rational and objective. And once you are rational and once you are objective, you become virtuous. Another thing, temperance, the ability which you have to hold on to your patience. When to become angry, when not to become angry, how much to become angry, how much anger to be shown on somebody, what is the purpose of that anger, when to withdraw your anger. Is your anger harming someone? Do you have patience for all these things? Not only anger, but anything. You eat. Temperament is required, or you overeat if you do not have the temperament. You exercise. So you need to put yourself into the exercise. Willpower is required. Again, temperance. It is also the ability a human being have, inherent ability, the willpower which a human being have to follow the rightful path. That's called temperance. Not only related to anger, but so many things in life. Anything which you want to do. Let's say you want to become a civil servant. You're sitting here studying. Some sort of temperament is required. You have to give certain amount of hours on the table every day studying. And when I say studying, focusly, paying full attention, getting absorbed in your studies. That is how you study for anything, for a paper like, for an exam like civil services. Then you succeed. So temperament is required. When a batsman is playing on the field, what helps him to make a 300 in a test match, triple 100? It's the temperament. The temperament of great Rahul Dravid. That's why he was called as the wall. He would stand there, ball after ball, in scorching heat. Still, he would go on playing with the same technique and same perfection. That's temperament. So if you have the temperament, again you are a virtuous man. Third thing, justice. Justice involves rationality and objectivity. Justice also involves impartiality. Justice also involves impartiality and non-partisanship. It is the ability of a human being to be fair. Fairness is there. All these elements combined together to form justice. All these elements combined together to form justice. This is an important thing to follow. Without this justice, you cannot be a virtuous man if you do not have the ability of justice. Let's say you are a civil servant and you do not possess the ability of justice. You favor someone. You show biasness towards someone. you show partiality depending on whatever influences you may have previously, which will not allow you to be just and fair. When you do resource allocation, you will favor one group of people more than the other. When you will do any social work for the people, you will pay attention or focus more towards one section or one faction versus the another. You may favor one religion over another. That's not fairness, and hence it's not justice. And when it is not justice, you can't be called a virtuous man. Any local example you give, for example, you are eating food, your cook comes and whatever she has made is the best thing you like. What will you do? You live with a flatmate. Will you have more portion of that food, or will you divide it equally among the two? No one is watching you. You can take a little bit more. You can take a large portion and leave only a small portion for your flatmate. What happens? What ends up happening? The person will not know about it. You can always say that this is the half. Whatever is left was the half. He is not going to go and confirm it with the cook. But is that justice? Is that fairness? These are important elements which we should think about in our day-to-day life. Justice is not adhered in judges, by judges or in courts. It is also a quality which we should adhere to in our day-to-day life. How much respect do we pay to poor versus the rich? Necessary respect must be given to everybody. A minimum level of respect must be given to everybody. That's justice, that's fairness. But we are favoring someone for some sort of a gain. That's not fair. So when that justice becomes injustice in a way that it starts to hurt the interest of people who are innocent, then that becomes one of the feature which adds up to your negative character, and you're no more ethical. So for a civil servant or for anybody in the administration, justice becomes a very important core value, and it is the part of virtue according to Socrates, which makes your character according to the Greek philosophers, and this character is the basis of ethical standard in society. Next is wisdom. What is wisdom? There's a difference. See, you can be intelligent. You can be intelligent. This is one thing. You can be literate. This is another thing. Literacy is another thing altogether. A person can be very, very literate but can be idiot at the same time. Idiot doesn't mean the person who knows how to read and write, but a person who doesn't know how to behave. A person who doesn't know what is the civilized manner of behavior in a civilized society can also be called as an idiot. You can be intelligent, you can be very intelligent, but not necessarily you can be wise. Wisdom is something else. There's a difference between education and literacy. Education, literacy versus education. This is marks based. M-A-R-K-S, marks. How many marks have you got in your 10th and 12th and your degrees? This is marks based, skill based. How much you put in and what is the output. Education, this is moral based. This is ethics based. Let's say you study computer science and then you become an ethical hacker. That's one thing. You study computer science and then you work for terrorists. That's another thing. In both these cases, you are literate. you have the knowledge of computer science, you have the knowledge of coding, decoding, and everything which goes into it, analysis, data analysis, data analytics. But if you do not have the moral core, moral values, you may use that power, that literacy, that skill which you have possessed in something negative, in harming others. So what really becomes important is wisdom. And when a person has wisdom, that means ability to take the rightful decision in any given circumstances. If a person starts to take the rightful decision, he is considered wise. There can be many examples of wiseness throughout the world. Great leaders, from the lives of great leaders we learn. Let's say Mahatma Gandhi, let's take this example. In the non-cooperation movement was at its height, and then suddenly Chauri Chaura incidents happens in 1922. He calls off the movement. Was that a wise decision? Many people have criticized him. Many people have criticized him. Still people criticize him for that. But the wiseness in that decision was that once Indians start to become violent, it will become very easy for the British establishment, which is full of power and have the whole police and army mechanism, to crush people. That way, they would end the whole resistance against the British rule in a very brutish, in a very immoral way, to save people from becoming the victim of that kind of violence, and to inculcate in them the value of non-violence, because Chauri Chaura incidents was a major violent incidents against the establishment by the Indian public, where 22 policemen were burnt alive in one of the village called Chauri Chaura. To inculcate the value of non-violence, which is one of the ethical standard, Mahatma Gandhi called off that moment. Was that a wise decision? To many, that was. History has told us, yes, that was, because what we have learned from it and then applied in the consequent movements, the civil disobedience and the non-cooperation, the civil disobedience and the Quit Indian movement after that, that has given us far more positive results. So wisdom is one of the thing, whether you have to lift the sword to fight or not. Arjuna listens to Lord Krishna and he is ready to fight. Is that a wise decision? Again, it is upon us to decide what is wise and what is not. For some people, fighting may not be wise, but in some circumstances it is necessary to fight. What if somebody comes to attack your house for no good reason? Will you just lay down arms and allow them to harm you, your family members, and take all your property? Or you would stand and fight? So wiseness becomes a very important rule. When you are studying, distracting in social media and unnecessary political debate, is that wise? So utilization of your resources to the best possible way is wisdom. Utilization of the resources available to you in the best possible manner is called wisdom. One of the most important resources that we have is time, and if somebody wastes time in unnecessary distraction, that cannot be called as wise. And once that's not wise, it cannot be called virtuous. Once that's not virtuous, it's not full of character. So the Greek philosophers Plato, Socrates and Aristotle have said that character is the basis for ethics in society, and they define virtue in these given terminologies. Socrates also came up with a very important doctrine, which is called as the doctrine of means. Doctrine of mean. Let's say there are two extremes. This is extreme number 1 and this is extreme number 2. This is extreme 2 and this is extreme 1. Mean is something at the middle. Mean is something at the middle. So all these qualities which you acquire and which you possess are the qualities which is at the mean here. So you can put every quality into this framework. You can put temperance here, for example. Temperance, what can be one extreme? That you have so much patience that it turns into procrastination. You do not act at all. And on the other hand, you are totally impatient. You are reactive. You always want to act without even thinking. So doctrine of mean says that you neither have to follow one extreme nor the other one. What you have to follow is the mean. Let's say courage. By the way, courage is one of the other quality of being virtuous. So courage is at the mean. What can be on one end? Cowardice. What can be on the other extreme? Rashness. Too much of overconfidence. Courage is one thing. Courage means overcoming your fears and acting in the positive direction. But when it comes to rashness, you can be overconfident, over-aggressive and over-violent. In a similar fashion, if you go to the other extreme of courage, it's cowardice. You will not take action. Even when it is in your favor, you will not take action because of fear. You're a coward. So, this is doctrine of mean, a very important formula to gauge whether your actions are virtuous or not, which will lead you to a characterful life. I hope you understood this philosophy of the Greek philosophers, which tells more about the importance of character. Now let us come to another one. Deontology. Deontology says that selflessness becomes the basis of ethical standards in society. This theory is propagated by Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant says that person in itself are good. They have virtuous nature. And when they have the virtuous nature, it is important that their actions be universal. That means are and in themselves. Means as and in itself. He pays more importance to means. There are two principles which needs to be followed when we are studying the Immanuel Kant's deontology. Deonto means the meaning of this word deonto is means, and logy is the science. So deontology is the science of means. Means whatever action which you are taking has to be universal. You should not pay attention to ends. Here means become more important than ends. Karam karo darya mein dal. You don't have to think what this action will result in. What you have to think about is whether this action in itself is ethical or not, is based on the ethical standards or not. That is what you have to think. You don't have to care about the result. The result will automatically be good. You will automatically be characterful. But for that, you have to be selfless. Because the moment you start thinking about the result, some sort of selfishness comes into play. And that selfishness holds you back from acting in a selfless manner, acting in a way that is universal, acting on the basis of ethical standards, moral standards set by the society. So, in the Immanuel Kant's deontology philosophy, what becomes the most important element is means. Means are and in itself. Means are based on the universal principles that wherever you go and act, in whatever capacity you act, your act must reflect the ethical standard in itself. Let's say if you are a civil servant and you are a collector of a particular district, all your actions, how you allocate resources, how you execute policies, it must, your focus must be on the action which you take, not on the outcome which needs to be generated. When your action is proper and based on the ethical standards, automatically you will become ethical. Automatically, ethical standards will be adhered in the society. So, means as and in itself is the philosophy of deontology by Immanuel Kant. There are several criticisms to this philosophy. One of the criticism is that there can be several good ends, and a person who has better ends in his or her mind can also become ethical. For example, you want to teach children, downtrodden children, children who never had historical education, formal education in their castes or in their creed. To teach such student free of cost, it's a good end in itself. It's a good goal which you want to achieve. There is nothing selfish in it. You are not doing it for money. You're not doing it for power. You're not doing it for any politics, but you are doing it for the benefit of the other person, for the benefit of those children. How can that end, how can that goal be selfish? Deontology says when you think about the end, you become selfish. But the criticism says that how can such pious ends be selfish? How can such pious ends be selfish? The greatest example of ends are good is Mahabharata, where Lord Krishna tells that the end result is the upliftment of the society and the upholding of the dharma. That's the end. For that end, pay attention and fight. It does not matter which action you take. It does not matter how you go by. What really matters is to achieve that end of upholding dharma. It's one of the biggest example. And which of these philosophy talks about the end? It is the teleology or the utilitarian theory. Selfishness becomes the basis. Utilitarian theory. John Stuart Mill, Jeremy Bentham. First came Jeremy Bentham, then John Mill, then his son John Stuart Mill. They propagated this theory of utilitarianism. This theory is important because this becomes the basis of all the Western philosophy in the modern times. This philosophy is based on selfishness. It says that human beings are selfish in themselves. They want to see their own benefit before the benefit of someone else. Now, how to cumulately bring benefit to the society? So it propagates a theory which says that there shall be greatest number of goods, greatest number of good to the greatest number of people. It works on pain and pleasure theory. Pain and pleasure. What it says is to avoid pain and go for pleasure. So your action must be aligned in such a way that it should be avoiding pain and it should be resulting in pleasure. In order to have pleasure and avoid pain, you should act, and the action of maximum number of people must result in the pain avoidance for maximum number of people and the pleasures for maximum number of people. Okay, let me just simplify it. If you see an individual, let's say this is an individual should always work to alleviate his pain and his actions must result in pleasure. But when we talk about a society, a big society, and there are so many individuals within it, the combined effect of the actions of these individuals must result for the greatest good of the society. That simply means, in combination, if we see the actions of all the individuals within society, it should be giving more and more pleasure to the maximum number of people in the society, not only to a confined section of people, not only to a few people. So two important elements to be upholded is, one, the action has to be taken by large number of people. The action has to be taken by large number of people. They are independent actions. Whatever they are involved in, whether it be politics, whether it be services, whether it be business, whether it be teaching, whether it be lawyers, whether it be doctors, in combination of all, whatever action they are taking to gain pleasure and avoid pain must also help in giving pleasure to the maximum number of people. So the action has to be taken by large number of people, and the outcome would be good for large number of people. To further simplify it, let's say if one person is a doctor, another person is an engineer, another person is a lawyer, then there is a teacher, then there is a businessman, then there are politicians, then there are people in civil services, then there are people who do a manual job. What are the basic desire for all these people? They want happiness. All of them, whichever work they are doing, they all want happiness. This happiness can be gained, one, by when somebody recognizes their work. That's one of the way. Happiness can also be gained when you get the outcome. That means money. That also brings pleasure to you, money. Then the recognition brings pleasure to you. Then when you see that your work impacts positively the lives of other people, that also brings impact of happiness on you. So there are few elements. When these many sectors, the people within it work, they try to gain happiness for themselves, but in return they are also giving happiness to other people, pleasure to other people. So in combination, if we see all these doctor, engineer, lawyer, teacher, businessman, politician, civil servant, manual workers, all these, when the group of them and everybody who works and makes the society, when they are working together, they are trying to bring pleasure to themselves, which means happiness to themselves, and also their work, if we gauge it in a combined manner, it also brings pleasure or happiness to the whole society, to the greatest number of people, to the maximum number of people there can be. So that is the utilitarian theory. That's the theory of utilitarianism. There is a criticism given to this theory that the greatest number for the greatest good for the greatest number of people, if we see the pyramid, the few people in society get benefited, and most of the people who are at the bottom of this pyramid does not get benefited by utilitarian theory, because this theory is the basis of capitalism. This theory is the basis of capitalism, and in the words of Jeremy Bentham, capitalism is one of the most rational and objective idea which helps in greatest good to the greatest number of people. Utilitarian theory and capitalism has also influenced the constitution making process in the Western countries, which has now been upholded by India and the new democracies also. Justice, liberty, equality, individualism, these are the basic feature of American Constitution, of French Constitution, of British Constitution. They all help businesses to grow. They all help individual to amass wealth, to avoid pain and maximize their pleasures. So utilitarianism becomes the basis for constitutional mechanism or constitutional power in the Western world and also in India. All the important rights, all the important elements which are mentioned in fundamental rights, liberty, freedom, equality, is the outcome of utilitarian theory. The whole concept of capitalism is the outcome of utilitarian theory, because it pays attention on selfishness. When selfishness is there, there has to be an individual. An individual is there, selfishness is there. The individual tries to work in such a way that he maximizes his pleasure and avoids the pain. Let's say you start a business. Why you want to start a business? To earn money, to satisfy yourself and your self-respect in such a way that you have some value, to gain value within you and to gain value in the society, that you are doing something, you are earning something, you have some value and you are earning money. That gives you happiness. That also avoids pain, that you don't have to go hungry, you don't have to sleep on road in chilling winter like in Delhi. So to avoid these pains, you work, and then you get pleasure out of it. When you have a home, you can sleep in a heater, in a nice bed, with the best blankets you can buy. You can eat good food. All these brings happiness to us. All these brings pleasure to us. And when too many people starts to do this, the combination of their work brings pleasure to many other people. Since you work, there's a maid in your house, there's a cook in your house, which help you to become more happy. They bring pleasure to your life by making you or allowing you to focus on your work, and the other works are done by them. That does not mean they are suffering, because they are also earning. A cook earns, a maid earns. They may not be having the same standard of living as yours, but still they are making money and they are going home and they can also have their good life with whatever money they are earning. So it's a chain, the chain of individuals who are selfish individuals. Selfish in the sense that they want happiness for themselves, and to gain that happiness, to gain that pleasure, they have to avoid pain, because pain and happiness in a very rudimentary term cannot go hand in hand. We are not talking about saints. They enjoy in pain also. They are happy in pain also. But for common people like us, individuals, we need to avoid pain in order to have pleasure. We need to avoid pain in order to have happiness. That happiness becomes the basic element of working, action, and that becomes the basis of utilitarian theory, teleology, propagated by Jeremy Bentham, James Stuart Mill. There are several criticism given to this theory. One of them is overutilization of resources. Now we see, in order to seek more and more pleasure, what we are doing: overutilization of resources, wastage of resources. In fulfilling our desire, we have gone mad to fulfill our desire and temptation in such a manner that we are hurting environment like never before. We have global warming issues coming up, ozone layer issues coming up, wildlife is deteriorating, ecological balance in the societies are getting imbalanced. All these are the result of the desire of human being. All these are the results of individualistic nature of human being. Instead of going in a common social bus service, the public transport, what we follow is our own cars. Now that's individualistic. We do not think about the society or the community as a whole, but about ourselves, because the basis of this theory is selfishness. So this is one of the major criticism. Capitalism has also created in society division between haves and have-nots. Because of this theory, the rich are becoming richer and poor are becoming poorer. Because utilitarian is the basis of constitution in Western societies, it has also become the basis of constitution making in Indian society. But India has in a way balanced it with the concept of socialism. If we see the ideals of socialism in our preamble, the idealist of socialism in the directive principles of state policy are being upheld by government policy making, by law making in the parliament, and also by the Supreme Court of India. In one of its judgment, the Supreme Court has said, why to put the social principles in DPSP if you don't have to follow it? That clearly tells the mindset with which the Supreme Court works, that society becomes important in India. But that does not mean that our individual rights, individual freedom, liberty, equality within the society is hampered. So there is a great balance which we have created in the Indian Constitution. So this is all about the utilitarian theory, the teleology. The next three theory, contractarian theory, justice theory, and capability theory, we will see in the next lecture. Thank you for now.